Saw my first robin today.
Oh,
Yeah.
And it was like a revelation. I hadn't even thought about it till I saw one popping around. I go, here it is, it's here. And it had 10 feathered friends in my field. I had 10 turkeys as well, but they're not robins. They're more harpers in spring. But so it's all good. It's all good. And is this midterms right now or no?
It's your midterm season. No, right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
I know colleges, Albany was, I was up there last Thursday and they had midterms. So I think they're break now,
Yeah, we're next week.
next week. And Siena College was last week. So, have to spread the joy, right? Okay, so I know if we get guests, they're allowed to come in and, I want everybody to smile because they said they may take pictures. So look happy, And so I'm going to convene the meeting. Welcome, thank you for all attending. We have not too busy an agenda. I see Renee and Julie are virtual. Xavier has not shown up yet. Ron is on his way. And I'd ask if anybody would like to make a motion to approve the minutes. Let's see how.
I think we have to wait until.
We don't have four.
We
We don't have quorum yet, so if you can hold on.
Three. You got
We have
three.
3 so far,
Yeah,
One,
Julie,
two,
me and
three. Okay.
3 voting members.
One.
Xavier probably is
Okay,
coming.
so we'll just defer that.
Yep.
I'm gonna ask, because it really works.
Certainly. Does that help if I speak up and do some of my outdoor voice?
You have to use, a little sign language.
Sign language?
Bark at me. Attention.
All right. Did you like my bark? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and a pleasure to be here. I hope everybody received the updates, and so I won't repeat things that were in the monthly president or provost. Few things to keep in mind, as we were just talking about, spring break is coming up. Rah, rah, rah. We got updates from our enrollment management. Our applications continue to be very robust, but that means we now need to turn applicants into students in seats. So if you get a phone call from enrollment management, please don't ignore it. It's probably asking you to help us participate in any number of events. I know that on the 29th of March and the 5th of April in the morning, there are enrollment events to bring our students who are already accepted into the folds of those who are deposited and securing spaces. So do mark your calendars for those dates, Saturday, the 29th of March and Saturday, April 5th. Did I get that right? Great. Student Affairs continues to monitor and manage. And as Kathleen reminded us, we did have the news this past week. It was not pleasant news. It was sad news. We had the death of a student. He was transported from our campus, was in a life-threatening situation. There were interventions made in his transport. We really thank our campus police who stepped in a very unique way, taking over the command of the driving of the ambulance so that the paramedic folk could actually handle the student in a particular way. The student survived for some number of days at the hospital, did have an opportunity to regain consciousness and speak to the parent. And as any parent will know, it is not a pleasant thing but it was, at this point, I understand, consoling to the family that the student was able to acknowledge the presence there and they were able to share a love. And a couple of days later, the student succumbed. And so we are in communication through Student Affairs with the family. No other information is available at this time as to next steps, but we're looking carefully at possible next steps. And we'll keep you posted.
I know I quite literally just walked in, but this is in reference to the student who passed away. It's actually very convenient that you're talking about this now because I just came from my executive board meeting. The Student Association is looking to do some sort of memorial service or event for the student in the same way that the memorial was left up for Ray after his passing. We're looking to do something similar. But the board agreed that obviously we should probably speak to the family first, or maybe students who knew them in some fashion, I was going to bring that to you.
So why don't we talk offline? Because
Okay.
I'm in touch with the family, and we'll talk about sort of the institutional approach and all that good stuff.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, because
Association, we'll talk.
as you can well imagine, every student death has different circumstances and families have different desires
Yeah.
for additional communications about it. So
Yeah.
we will first and foremost respect the family's desire,
Of course.
which may or may not include a campus recognition.
Yeah.
Okay, but thank you for raising it. And Kathleen is the point person on that. Going around the table again on our priority related to fiscal sustainability, Michelle and her team continue to monitor. As you know, the state is in the budget process, so we here on the campus are looking very closely at how those one legislative body budgets move forward, and looking for the outcome in terms of an executable budget and the implications for SUNY. With regards to Office of Communication and Marketing, every one of you have probably received and or participated in some level of our strategic planning, and we thank you for your continued support. We are moving full steam ahead on that. It's very exciting that we started this, and we are still on target to finish the strategic planning process by the end of this semester. And we'll have a full launch of the strategic plan in the fall. I know I saw Abe recently on one, and we are seeing, Eli, I saw you, and we're looking, you've seen the mission statement, the vision statement, the objectives, and I think that we could all agree a lot of work has gone into this, and thank everyone who touched it. I'm looking at, and OCM is helping to guide a lot of our messaging on that and keeping us fully abreast. With regards to Tahina Pacheco-Dunn, who is our HRDI person, DEI, if anyone has been asleep for the past 5 months, and certainly in the past several weeks, we've seen a lot of shifts, changes, and uncertainty, and we're not impervious to that. So we continue to monitor closely what's going on. But as I told students this morning earlier this afternoon in our office hours, we adhere to the state guidelines, which adamantly have been expressed by the chancellor, that we are not to preemptively alter any of our New York State or SUNY policies with regards to DEI and other such, and that until it is determined that we must or will do some things, that we operate under the same guidance we did last year in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion as a clear and core component of who we are and how we operate as an institution. And as the president, I get to try to integrate this, and that's a brief summary for right now.
Thank you. And what we really say is keep the momentum moving in the right direction, which it has been. And thank you for your leadership. And it is interesting to try to predict the future. The only thing I know for certain, but he can do it. And the byline is whatever you think it's going to be, not going to be that. So we still have to make some plans, and we have an objective, and the objective is to make this the most fulfilling place for a student and for the faculty and staff to participate in. And that'll get us to where we want to go. And all of you are helping, and I thank you. So this is the penultimate time for you, Michelle, right? This is.
Need to move on? Okay.
We have another meeting, and then Michelle is summer, right? Yeah?
No, not until December.
Okay. So how are we doing?
We're doing. All right. Can you all see my screen? Okay, fantastic. I did it right this time. All right. So today we don't have a lot as far as slides go, but the goal for today is to discuss what we're seeing and hearing for the executive budget and now the One House bills that have been distributed, I believe, yesterday. give you a quick year-to-date summary of where we are with our revenue and expenses in the operating fund, and then provide a current all funds cash balance for the campus. All right, so the governor's executive budget for the third year in a row looks encouraging for higher education. The governor outlined in her executive budget a desire to increase direct taxpayer support to SUNY schools once again at the same level as last year. And yesterday we found out that the one House bills both agreed with that desire. That doesn't mean that it's a done deal, but it's looking like the stars are aligning on that front. There's also a desire for a continued investment in the ACE program with a little bit of a bump to what we received last year. The EOP and EOC programs, they are always removed from the executive budget, but they usually get put back in the one House bills, which they did so again this year. And both of the one House bills desire an increase in funding in those programs. They didn't come to terms on the amount, but they're both wanting to see it reinstated and increased to a different level. We're looking at a relatively flat capital investment on the governor's executive budget, but both one House bills added some capital funding. Last year we got 550 million with some lump funding on top of that. This year's executive budget says 550 million again for the minor critical maintenance. So that's rehabbing old facilities, not investing in new. But the one House bills are asking for some other special projects, not for SUNY New Paltz, unfortunately, but for SUNY as a whole. Then one disappointing factor is that we saw the elimination of the $1 million for science of reading microcredential in the executive budget and in both one House bills. One thing I didn't put on there is we have a small allocation for the Benjamin Center that's been on campus for a very long time, about 15 years. That was eliminated in the executive budget, but one of the one House bills has it reinstated, and so we're hopeful to see that again. So before I move on, any questions on?
Is there any rationale for the elimination of the reading micro-credential?
That I do not know.
Just as off the table.
Yeah, it's just not a part of the budgets this year. Now, does that mean it won't make it to the final budget? Like you said before, it's anybody's game. So we'll see what happens at the end of the month, hopefully. We'll have an on-time budget. But now it's when the rubber hits the road and everybody gets into those rooms and discusses or has discussions about what will be coming forward in the budget. Just wanted to remind you that even though the one House bills are advantageous more so than the executive budget, the one House bills do not have to balance. It's just their wish list, whereas the executive budget has to balance. So the revenues and expenses have to align for the executive budget. So that's usually why you see the executive budget being more conservative with respect to the numbers that they put forward for SUNY. Questions?
Oh.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, and then fast forward to, I'm just gonna move Julie and everyone else up there. Okay, so this is the typical year to date as compared to last year. We are seeing, as I've been indicating, we're seeing a little bit of a lag in our revenue for this year, our tuition revenue. We're at about 99%, still a good score. I would take that if I were in class. Whereas last year we overachieved our target by a little bit, but year over year, we are up by $700,000, and that's always a good indicator. The state is coming in with their state support as prescribed. And then on the expenditure side, we are leaning a little heavier than we were last year as compared to the budget. We're seeing a little bit more in personnel service, less vacancy savings. Utilities are coming in pretty much right where they were last year, knock wood. And the other than personal expenditures are pretty much exactly where they were last year. So with reduction as to the target for revenue and an increase in expenditures as to budget for this time of year, we are looking at using a little more cash than we did last year, but still to be seen what the last quarter of the year plays out. This particular slide is the one that looks chaotic. This is our cash balances over the past few years. The dark blue on the bottom was pandemic time, influenced by some CARES funding in the end. 21, 22 is the orange line. 22, 23, we're starting to get back into normalcy. And then 24, 25, we're seeing this blue line. Now, the trends, I'm trying to look at the trends to see when money hits and when it goes away. We're seeing a little bit of fluctuation. Remember, last year we had a loan that came in February that we didn't have the year before, so it caused a spike in cash. We spent that loan down over the course of the summer because it was due to a res hall program. And this year we had some financial aid, I think, come in at the end of January that didn't hit until February last year. So the lines get a little nutty. But what we want to see is that it starts to flatten out at the end, like most of these normal years do. The biggest story here is that between 22, 23, which was almost a normal year, and this year, we're seeing a dip in our cash of about $10 million. And that holds true. We've been running a deficit the last couple of years to the tune of about 4 million when all is said and done. So 4 plus 4 or 4.5 plus 5, it brings you to a $10 million decrease in overall cash. So we've got to make our those lines go back up a little bit, bring in some more revenue, reduce expenditure, and the multi-year stability plan shows that. And maybe next time I'll try to do a chart with that in there so that it'll be a little bit easier to see. But the multi-year stability plan still shows us evening out and starting to gain reserves rather than use reserves in the year 27, 28. Questions? Oops, let me put these guys back so I can see you. Julie, do you have a question?
Yeah, maybe you mentioned
Sure.
this already, but can you hear me?
Yeah.
It seems like every other year between November and December, there's an increase and there's like a steep decrease this past year. Did you mention what that was from?
Again, it's timings. For December, it's actually because December had 3 payrolls. So the timing of, usually we have 2 in a month. The last payroll hit the last day of the year, so that dips the cash. And then our students start to pay for the spring, so that brings it back up.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The trend seems a little bit better. Is that we're just below water, but not
Yeah.
as deep?
Yeah, we still have some plans. Just as when you start a new business and you plant those seeds, it takes a while for the water to get down and for them to grow roots. So that's the phase that we're in right now, is we're planting seeds with new programs and initiatives and hoping that they, this will bear fruit in a couple of years to get us back up into the sunshine.
And the revenue, it's pretty steady, but the costs.
The costs keep escalating, yeah. So with the past two, and then hopefully this year again, going forward, 3 years with budget, the executive budget coming through for SUNY. We've seen about a $2 million investment in this campus each year. That almost holds steady with the salary increases that we're seeing. But unfortunately, other costs are going as well. We're all seeing it in our pocketbooks these days, at the grocery store, in our construction, in our operations, utilities. So even though those investments from the state are fantastic, they're just not keeping pace with all of the other increases.
So the talk about taxpayer increased participation, it's kind of always mentioned, but never really comes to fruition, right?
Right.
So, that's kind of always the answer, vis-a-vis tuition, right?
Yeah, one of the questions that we asked this morning too is, along with taxpayer support, are we likely to see rational tuition come back into play? And the answer is firmly no, not at least for the next 2 years. So,
Well, good job, Michelle.
thank you.
Thank you.
Stop sharing. All right, we're back.
So, I told you I saw the first robin, so what comes next is commencement. It's spring. I know it's just barely midterms, but time waits for no one. And so there's a little planning going on about participating in commencement. It's always, what I say, the greatest aggregate of smiling faces imaginable on campus. There's not only the students are happy, but their family and friends are. So it's a very celebratory event, something that I encourage everybody to participate in. It's great. And hopefully the weather will cooperate and we'll have a really, really good time. It's just smiling faces. And Friday is the graduate on May 16th at 6 p.m. Undergraduate for liberal arts is Saturday on the 17th. In the schools of science and engineering, business, education, fine and performing arts on Sunday. All ceremonies will be out on the main quad, hopefully. Get to dress up in those crazy gowns, there's some stupid pictures of me and other people look really good in them, but whatever that. It's a really good time. So I would encourage everybody to make arrangements and attend. Lisa is anxiously awaiting, making sure everybody gets sized well, if they need a gown. Okay. Supposed to let her know by April 9th. Okay. And this is so, but even if you're a little late, I'm sure you'll be accommodated. Okay. Does anybody else have any new business? There's no old business then.
The minutes, now you can, the minutes, you can do the,
No, we still only have
Four now.
it was just four.
just four, so
I keep.
So we have
that's Ron's.
now a quorum. So we're gonna offer the minutes from.
No, we don't.
You need one more.
We need one more.
Need five.
We need five. We only have four.
We
Okay,
have to defer, right?
Yeah.
all right.
Ron?
Go Ron.
Go Ron, so no minute. So that, we'll just defer that to the next meeting. And the next meeting,
He said,
for the council is scheduled for May 7th. A Wednesday at 3 p.m. And put it in your calendars. I'm gonna work on some new material. I look forward to seeing everybody at the next meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Dave here, second. Dave? All in favor? Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Efficiency.
Bye.
Will you have a bird update for us at the next meeting?